It was no surprise that Hamas began to play some games with the names of those who were supposed to be released today. Last night, on Saturday night, Hamas was supposed to pass on those names to the mediators and then to Israel. It, of course, did not do that. And that led to a delay in the implementation of the ceasefire. So there was continued Israeli operations in Gaza. This is what we should expect. And sadly, this is what I think the next 42 days of the ceasefire are going to look like. Because let's remember, in the first phase of the ceasefire, it's for 42 days. Every week, they're supposed to release about 3 or 4 hostages. So 3 today, 3 women. Next week, another 3. The other week, another 3. Until finally, in the last week, they're supposed to release about 12, 13. Every week presents another challenge because we have to remember we are dealing with a murdering, barbaric, massacring terrorist organization that is cynical, that has perpetrated the worst crimes known to humanity. And therefore, we should have nothing that should surprise us in the way that Hamas operates. This is the way they are. And sadly, this is part of the great risk that Israel's taking, is that at any point throughout this period, this whole plan could go up in flames if Hamas decides that it doesn't want to adhere to the agreement that it signed. Hamas has notified Israel of who the 3 hostages are going to be that will be released today. 3 women, Romi Gonain, Doron Steinbracher, and Emily Damari. Romi Gonain was taken from the Nova Music Festival. Doron and Emily were both taken from their kibbutz of Kfar Aza, where they lived, which is just up near the border with the Gaza Strip. Those are the 3 women who are supposed to be released. They're believed to be alive, these 3, and we hope and pray that that is the case. They will be brought, hopefully, to Israel if the deal goes through. They will be taken immediately to a hospital to be reviewed and inspected after 470 plus days in captivity. Who knows what the state, their physical state, and their health is. So they will be taken to hospital first and foremost. They will be reunited with their families. They will be treated. And at some point, they will go through this process of rehabilitation. We're going to be seeing this every week now, hopefully. It'll be painful. It'll be emotional. Israelis are very tense today, very, very anxious. People are glued to their televisions, grasping at any piece of news. When the hostages are hopefully released later this afternoon, there's talk of it maybe taking place at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But again, this is all up to Hamas when it decides to go ahead and do it. You will see a country holding its breath and watching and waiting and cheering and breaking out. There will not be a dry eye in this country when Emily, Doron, and Romi hopefully get released and cross back into Israel. So we hope and pray that that will be the case. I think everyone wants to see the hostages come home. That's not the question. The question is, what is the price that should be paid in exchange for getting the hostages home? And let's not forget, Israel is paying a very steep price. Not only is it pausing military operations and pulling out of areas that it has been holding on to prevent Hamas from reasserting and constituting itself, but it is also releasing over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners, some of them mass murderers. I mean, I know of people, personal friends, who terrorists had murdered family members of theirs, who that terrorist who was sentenced to multiple lives in prison is now being released, right? This is the reality. This is the price that Israel is paying to get back its people. And this causes and leads to a division on what the right move is. But this is a very steep price. It's not negligible at all that to get back someone, one of our people, we are releasing people who have murdered ourselves, us. And this is something that Israel is going to be doing over the next few weeks, but it is painful. Hamas is still there. Hamas still has arms. It still has fighters. We heard from U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken just about a week and a half ago that they have, for all the 10,000 people of Hamas who have been killed, they have already recruited almost the same number. So they're replenishing the ranks and recruiting new fighters. this is part of what they do, and they will try to rebuild and they will try to reassert themselves. And part of Israel's challenge is going to be how to deny them of that capability and at the same time preserve the ceasefire so that it doesn't fall apart. This will not be simple. And Hamas will test Israel because they will want to show that it is Israel that is violating the ceasefire. So they will want to do that. This is their MO. This is the way they do things. But I think that Israel has to stand strong, has to get through this next period, which will not be simple, to get back its people. And after its people have been returned, then if that is still the case, then the military operations can resume. It's hard to know if the ceasefire is going to mark the end of the war. On the one hand, I think that it's very possible that this will be the end. If the ceasefire holds up, if the hostages are released, if the U.S. pressure on Israel and on the other sides maintains itself, and Donald Trump has been putting pressure to help make a deal and prevent the fighting from continuing. Although he has apparently, reportedly, this is what Prime Minister Netanyahu told his cabinet, he has given assurances that Israel will be able to resume the war if the ceasefire does fall apart. So that has been given apparently by the U.S. president. But I think it's possible that this will be the end. And it's also very possible that it will not be the end and that this will fall apart. And the reason it will fall apart is we have to remember this is a lopsided agreement. Israel is a democracy, a state run by rule of law. So when its government passes a decision, it sticks to that decision. Hamas is a terrorist organization. And they decide one thing today, they'll decide something else tomorrow. And because of that unbalance, this will lead potentially to this framework falling apart. A tragedy has taken place to the people of the Gaza Strip, and I think we have to recognize that the innocent civilians of Gaza, who unfortunately have been held hostage by Hamas as well, right, which has taken control of them and used them as human shields and embedded their terrorist infrastructure inside their civilian infrastructure. They have also suffered, and this is a time, hopefully, for them to take the reins of their lives and to take it into a new direction. Hopefully there will be new civilian leadership in Gaza that can help do that. More aid will go in. The beginning of the rehabilitation and the reconstruction of Gaza is also expected to begin. For all of that to work, though, what we have to keep in mind, though, is that Hamas cannot be allowed to take again the reins and govern the Gaza Strip. It has to be denied that. And we need a strong willpower of the world and a united front to ensure that that does not happen. Because if they again take control of Gaza, then it's just a matter of time for another, God forbid, October 7th to take place. And they will try, and they openly say that they want to try. So despite their heavy military losses and the loss of lots of infrastructure, lots of fighters, their entire top leadership, they can rebuild. And this is the great challenge that Israel faces in the years to come.